think about, where things are in your life, what you want to, weed out, if you will, what you want to do more of. And so I thought that it would be great to share with you all a little tool that I like to call productive reflections.
I'm going out my mind. Give me some directions to get to you. To get to you, ain't gonna waste my time. I know that we got connection. I think about you. You're on my mind, on my mind, on my mind. Yeah, I'm going out of my mind, out of my mind, out of my mind. Yeah, for you, my love. You drive me crazy, tell me what to do, what to do. I'm on my knees, yeah, I am begging you, begging you. I'll break the rules if it will get me to, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Ooh, it just started pouring here. I don't know what is going on. Happy Holy Week for those of you who celebrate Easter and all of the, I almost call them festivities. This is a time of quiet reflection this week. Today is, I don't know what the Wednesday would be called. Any of my Christian celebrating friends, feel free to pop that in there. Yeah, I think that for those of you who may have received my email today, this has been, I think for many of us, this is kind of a heavy time, a heavy week with the Derek Chauvin trial starting this week. Again, I mentioned for those folks who celebrate in this Holy Week, again, that's a time of reflection on, I think regardless of if you are a religious person, regardless of if you identify as a Christian, I think this week is a wonderful time. I talk a lot about seasons. It's a really beautiful time to do reflection, to sit and think about, where things are in your life, what you want to, weed out, if you will, what you want to do more of. And so I thought that it would be great to share with you all a little tool that I like to call productive reflection. So I think a lot of people will talk about, let's say we just had the new moon, right? So if you celebrate new moons, full moons, the full moon is a time of release, right? Energy comes to a head and you spend that time in reflection of what you need to let go of, right? And so that just happened, we're just moving out of that energy. And tomorrow being April 1st, again, starts in my mind, a very spiritual time of the year. We have, again, Christian Holy Week, Ramadan starts in 2 weeks. So this is really that in-between time, right? We left the cold weather, we're moving, we've moved now into the spring. We think about things growing, but we have to remember, as I think about my friend Jocelyn all the time, hey, Wanda, and her gardening. It's a time where we have to kind of weed things out of our life. So I thought it was helpful as I was thinking about kind of what's going on in the world and what's happening for folks. It would be helpful to talk about this productive reflection. So for me, reflection is, yes, you kind of take that step back and look and see what's already happened in your life, where you are. Maybe you journal about it, but oftentimes we kind of get lost right there. We kind of say, okay, well, we rehashed this old shit. It was terrible. I wrote down all the things I hated about whatever happened. Oh, hey, Jocelyn, look at you here. Yes, you've been out there gardening and weeding and cleaning up. Yes, I follow your adventures in the garden since I cannot grow anything. But a lot of us get stuck in rehashing the past, rehashing what's happened, experiencing even the emotions that you've gone through. And even if, again, you may stop and journal about it, but then it kind of ends there, right? And so what happens if you get to that point, you've relived this experience, but then you never move it forward, right? So in Jocelyn's case, hey, Dr. Lise, how are you? In Jocelyn's case, let's say we're talking about the garden. If you go and you pull up all the weeds, but then you never plant anything new or you never water it, I mean, you're not going to grow anything, right? And so this idea of productive reflection that I'm going to talk about today kind of gives you a couple of steps to go through there. And so let me see if I can get my fanciness to work today and show you just just want to put on the screen so that if you're watching this later or if you don't have sound on right now, you can just kind of follow along at least. I know usually my closed caption is on. So the first step of this, of preparing and going through this productive reflection, right, is that beginning of finding a time and a space, right? So you have to allow yourself, if the goal is to reflect on what has happened, right? Reflect on the past, reflect on a trauma, reflect on something that you've just moved out of or that you're hoping, you're right there, getting ready to move beyond. You have to sit and think about, okay, well, what happened? What did I go through, right? You have to allow yourself the time and the space, a safe space, to literally sit quietly and do this work, right? And so you want to think about the situation that happened. You want to, I won't say that you want to relive it, but you definitely want to remember as much of the important parts of it as you can. And that means all the parts of it, right? Whatever your experience, whatever it is you're trying to move beyond, you can't just sit in the really shitty parts, right? No matter how heavy it was. Try to remember all of the experience as much as you really can, right? This is like a judgment-free zone. It's just you sitting and reflecting on what happened, and you can't hold back on that. You have to allow yourself to experience those things, right? So that's the first step. Let's see. Oh, I could have put some caps in here. Sorry about that. But hey, Stacy. I love the idea of productive reflection and living with intention as we best evaluate our lives and what's our greatest good. Yeah, absolutely. And so the second step to this is, like I said, you don't want to just relive the past, right? You want to take from it. You want to sit with and understand the lessons learned there, right? And so certainly you can do more, but I want you to, as you go through this and you write these things down and you write down all that you've experienced and you really embrace all of it, I want you to write down at least 2 lessons that you learned from this experience. Now, I know some people, and I've had certainly clients who are like, oh my gosh, I didn't learn anything. It was just terrible. It was just awful. But the reality is that if you've made it to the other side, which if you're doing this, you've made it to the other side, which is amazing. And you need to honor that, right? But if you made it to the other side, that means that you learned something. No matter how hard it was, no matter how rough it felt getting through it, and it may still be very raw for you, but it's so important right? So that you don't do it again, or that you don't feel it in that same way should a similar situation come up. It's so important for you to really think about, what are the lessons that I learned from this? And certainly it could be more, than two, but I'm pushing you to really sit and come up with two lessons that you learned from this experience, right? Hey, cuz, how are you? So that would be step two, is acknowledging what you learned. Even if you learned, a lot of times in really heavy situations, the things that you learned are what you don't want, or what you don't want to do again, right? What you're not willing to tolerate anymore. That's a lesson learned. That's important, right? So write down the things that you learned in this experience, right? So, number three, I get that gratitude, the idea of gratitude, can be a little tricky, right? And some people will say to me, and I've heard this certainly from folks, that it's not all about love and light and rainbows and butterflies. And certainly, I try to be more optimistic than not. And when I talk about gratitude, I talk about it coming from a space of, again, of learning, right? Of taking the experience, taking the time to sit with whatever your experience was and find, again, those lessons learned, right? What were those lessons learned from this experience, right? So that's you starting to shift away from the pain to, okay, what's the learning that happened there? When you get to step three with gratitude, again, you've been shifting your focus away from the pain towards the learning, to now, once you can sit and say, like, this is what I learned from that experience, then you can say, my gosh, I made it to the other side here. And I learned these lessons. And it was hard and it was awful and it was whatever you felt, or it was amazing that I learned these things. But the gratitude is towards yourself, right? Not towards, like, I'm thankful that this shitty thing happened to me, right? It's gratitude toward yourself, that you're able to acknowledge the fact that, like, you're a badass. You made it through. I made it through this. I learned these lessons. I learned what I don't want to do again, what I'm not willing to take. I learned how strong I am, how amazing I am, whatever the lessons were that you learned. The gratitude is towards you, right? Yay me for having learned these lessons, for having become that much more strong for the next whatever comes up in my life, right? So that's the gratitude piece of this. And even if you just, I didn't put the last one on here. Even if you were to end really with the gratitude piece of this, that would be amazing, right? Because again, I think many of us kind of go from, yes, I want to reflect on what happened, and you don't do anything else, you sit in that pain. If you're able to move to what you've learned and then move to showing yourself some grace and allowing yourself to, like, recognize that, yeah, I did it. I did this thing. I got over this hurdle. That would be wonderful if you can get to step three, right? Step four of this, which I don't know why I didn't write in here, but step four of this process, and the final step for me, is to share that, to share the lesson learned with someone else, right? And I say to someone else's, but it could be one, it could be 1,000, right? But sharing that experience, I'm a big believer in storytelling and in sharing stories. And I think that it's so important for us to share our experiences, especially the hard ones that we've overcome, that we've gotten through. It's so important to remind folks that they're not alone in whatever their struggles are, whatever they're going through. I mean, we're all amazing and magical and unique, but most of what any of us could ever experience is not the first time that it's happened to another human being, right? So, I think about that a lot when I think of like movies and television. Like, can you just come up with another story? Everything is recycled, right? So if you have now gotten to a point where you've gotten through a hard situation, you've learned a lesson, you were able to acknowledge to yourself how amazing you are for having gotten through that, now you need to share that, right? Not for your own sake necessarily, it certainly will help you, but to help our community at large, right? So again, this week being a week that many people are, focusing on this Holy Week, on how we can create better community, how we can sacrifice and give and receive with those around us. Again, regardless of your religion, of your religious affiliation or lack thereof, community is the core of everything. Hi, Christina. Community is the core of everything. And how do you build better community? By sharing your stories, sharing of yourself, right? So step 4 to this is sharing that experience, sharing that learning. If you share it with a good friend, maybe who didn't know that you went through a particular experience, sharing that lesson that you learned and how proud you are that you got through it, right? How impactful would that be to a friend who may find themselves in a similar situation, right? What if you were to take it a step farther and share it? Obviously anyone who's watching this is on social media. What if you shared it, with a few people online? What if you shared it on your page? What if you shared it in a group that you're in? What if you have your own business or your own, larger online presence and you shared even just the lessons learned, right? I'm not saying you have to spill your heart out, but sharing the lessons that you learned and the gratitude that you feel towards yourself. What if you shared that to a huge audience of people and just one person saw that and was like, wow, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one. Like, how meaningful would that be, right? And I'd love if you've ever experienced that before. I mean, hit the like, hit yes, whatever, put in the comments that you've seen somewhere, you've seen someone post about having survived something, having gotten through something. And it's, you said to yourself, like, damn, I needed to see that today, right? That happens to me all the time. And it's so important. And that's what community really is all about, right? And so, again, this week, as we talk about reflection and, we talk about how we're celebrating this time of, again, in my opinion, really like spiritual energy around us, don't just stop at reflection, right? Be really productive about it. Do something with that energy that you're creating to move forward, to make everybody like a little bit better, right? Isn't that the goal for all of us, right? So that was really what I wanted to share. I will say that, now coming up in April, there's going to be some fun things going on. We're going to have our drawing again for a couple of clarity sessions with me. And that's going to be happening in April. So keep an eye out if you're not already in the WTF with Mel Facebook group. Pop on over there to continue these conversations. So let me see. I see a couple of posts here. Everyone has a story, and it's our stories that connect us. Yes, we never know the full impact of our testimonials. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, others' experience shared with you can have to work through some of those things. Yeah, I mean, even if you just think about that, right? Again, we all have friends, we all have family, but I know I can say for myself, there have been experiences in my life that I handled myself right? Quote unquote, I handled them myself. Because I didn't want to burden someone else with them, right? I didn't want to even like best friends. I didn't want to like, oh, I'll just deal with this. I don't want to make it their problem, their struggle. And obviously I'm here to talk about it. So I made it through, but how much easier would it have been for me to have shared at least my experience, not for someone else to fix, but just to be able to express it, right? To be able to not just hang on to that all by myself and allow someone else who cares about me to at least be there, right? I know that now, and I think many of us who are, strong, we think strong means we have to carry the load all by ourselves. And again, if the focus is that community is what we ultimately want, then that's not building community, right? Not sharing, not allowing other people into our spaces. So that's really, for both people, right? Both ends of that is so meaningful. And again, even if it's a stranger that hears the lessons that you learn from a particular experience, oftentimes, so often, that's why we buy books, right? Why we listen to people's podcasts as they share stories about their experiences and their learning. I mean, that's what it's all about. And so I really encourage you all to take this practice, to use it, I mean, over and over and over again, right? It doesn't have to even be like a super heavy experience. It can be a really good experience that you went through. And what did you learn from that, right? What gratitude can you show towards yourself and to those that were part of that experience? And again, why not share that, right? Just like a Yelp review, right? Share that I had this really wonderful experience. This is what I learned. This is what happened, and I want everybody to know about it, right? So it works the same regardless of the type of situation that you've gone through. So yes, thank you all for chiming in about that. Okay, so I feel like there was something else I wanted to tell you all about April. I don't know. Well, tomorrow I will share my own personal good news. Tomorrow I will be getting my second COVID vaccine, so I'm super excited about that. Which means in 2 weeks after that, I will be fully vaccinated and ready to engage a little bit, right? Baby steps, engage back in the world. I've been having a lot of conversations, right? I'm going to weave this into this week of reflection. Been having a lot of conversations about getting vaccinated and people who are still on the fence about vaccination and folks who are waiting out getting vaccinated. I certainly have my own opinions about that. Obviously, I'm getting vaccinated. I've been sharing lots of information about the importance of getting vaccinated and what potential downfalls there can be if you don't. If anyone has any questions or, feels like I'm on the fence, I don't know enough about this, I am absolutely not a doctor, but I'm happy to bring in someone and have a conversation or send you information about vaccinations where you are, whatever it is. It's just so important. I ask that if you're not convinced that it's important, or you have some information you're not sure about, again, ask community, connect with community, find some answers, look at some research, whatever it is that you need. Again, if you all feel like, I don't know enough, where can I get information? Can you bring somebody on to talk about it? I absolutely will do that. Just let me know that here or send me a message or whatever. Jocelyn, I'm 1 week out from my second shot. Yay! Yeah, no, I haven't had any side effects. I mean, my arm hurt like the second half of the first day and the second day, but that was it. So I've been great otherwise. Same thing with Vinny. My wife gets her second shot next week. She hasn't had any side effects, and you all know she's a bit of a baby. So, if she can make it through, you're good. But yes, so that's super important. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like because there's a lot happening in April, I don't know, maybe I'll jump back on Friday, Good Friday, and just check in and let you all know what the rundown is, at least over in the Facebook group. So again, if you're not in WTF with Mel Facebook group, pop over there, join the group. If you have any questions about what I talked about today or moving forward, in April, we really, again, are going to be talking about much more in depth. We're going to be talking about connecting with spirit, with universe, with higher powers, with God, goddess, however you identify with spirituality. We're going to really be talking a lot more about that in April, again, because in my opinion, April is a very spiritual week, and it's the perfect time to start connecting with our intuition and to that energy of that which is bigger than us. And so, I hope that you'll join me in April for those things. If you can't wait to hear all the information and you're interested in joining me for a clarity session, I'm happy to see you. Hey, Bridge, nice to see you. You're also going to hear about Miss Bridget, who just popped in to say hey. She's an amazing makeup artist with her own makeup line called P31. I have some ideas for her. So anyone who is a makeup user and has makeup questions, or would maybe be interested in us doing something with Miss Bridget, bringing her on, doing a little interview, definitely let me know. I think I might make that happen just because Bridget's amazing. There's a lot I love about her. This makeup I'm wearing today, most all of it except my lipstick, is from Miss Bridget's P31 collection. Okay, so y'all get me distracted now. So if you have any questions, if you're interested in a clarity session with me, check out WTFwithMel.com. That's the website. You can find links in the Facebook group, on the page, all over the place, everything on social, we're WTFwithMel.com. We can set that up. And yeah, so I will see you all maybe on Friday. I'll at least send some updates about what happened for the month. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Glad I got to listen in. Oh, I miss you too. Okay, well, we're gonna have to talk about September weddings and what's going on next year, or later in the year once the world opens back up. Okay, so I'll stop talking now. I love you all. Thank you so much for stopping through today. Let me know what questions you have. And in the interim, happy April and stay magical.